against Charlie Lockyer. And Charlie's got an interesting story to him. At NAIC, we were kind of keeping an eye on him on the back way because he was playing a tool drop deck. And he saw a lot of success with it. And we never actually got to feature him on the stage. But here he is once again. Not sure what deck he's on, but I don't think it's tool drop.
Well, it would definitely surprise me if it was. Let's just put it that way. And, of course, we will be finding that out shortly as players are starting to complete their setup and, of course, hoping to advance in the tournament right now. I believe both players are 2-0 coming into round 3, so these players are hoping to get to a 3-0 record. Remember, every loss is very, very disheartening, I guess is probably the best way to put that.
That's fair.
Yeah, as you just can't afford to lose too many matches in this very small player field.
Right, so looking over,
there's some lightning stuff here.
That's Charlie's, and it looks like he prized a little bit of some Pikachu and Zekrom pieces, and he's fighting up against Mewtwo and Mew Perfection deck.
Well, there's Perfection one more time. We've been seeing that a lot throughout the weekend. It's maybe one of those decks that was a little under the radar before Friday rolled around, but then ever since Friday, it seems like maybe either players just weren't considering it enough, or everybody just kind of decided that was going to be their secret deck. But it's been played quite a bit this weekend.
Yep. So Henry, he has a few accolades to his name as well. He is a player from Australia, as you can see by that little flag next to his name. He made top 8 at the Oceania International Championship. So he was able to lock in a top 8 spot in his hometown for him. That's pretty impressive. And we see him here on the world stage, day 2, 2-0, and he is burning through his deck, trying to find some helpful pieces. It looks like that Pokegear was not too helpful for him, though.
All right, but that was the end of Henry's turn, and now Charlie here trying to start setting up him for himself. Now, Charlie did start with Jirachi, which is an incredible starter to have, but it seems like he missed.
He had a judge that he could have chose there. It looks like he doesn't want that. He's got his own judge in his hand, so he's just not going to show that he has that second judge or not play that one. It seems like he already had his mind made up. He may have a pretty interesting list of this Pikachu and Zekrom deck if he's playing multiple judge. We usually don't see that, but if he is playing multiple judge, you would probably assume that there's multiple reset stamp as well, and he just wants to get his opponent on a low hand and take advantage of the fact that he has multiple Stellar Wish while his opponent does not.
Yeah, and beyond that, he also has a version of this deck that we don't really see very often. You know, you don't really see Jirachi being paired with these lightning Pokemon all that often. You normally see that with the Reshiram and Charizard.
Yeah, it was more popular to be with Pikachu and Zekrom, the Jirachi, before the rotation. We've seen some players shift away from that, but he's going with this old school strategy, and I think it is going to be pretty helpful for him, especially with that added layer that he has of hand manipulation, which is honestly pretty difficult to find in this current format.
Yeah, he has quite an interesting list now that I'm taking a look at it, and I'm excited to see how it plays out here. Clearly, it's gotten him to a 2-0 record, so it's going to be impactful and it's going to be effective, but it's going to do it in a little bit of a different style than we're used to seeing out of this Pikachu and Zekrom deck this weekend. Now, he did already find himself a Thunder Mountain, and I believe he's
got the Dedenne.
Yeah, he's got the Dedenne for a fresh 6, not having to discard anything.
He found Pokemon Communication, and he has a Jirachi as well, so this means that he could search out his Tapu Koko Prism if he so chose. I don't know if he has the Lightning Energies to take advantage of that. Looks like that was his check right there, so may hold off on that and just wait a little bit longer.
And now he finally uses Stellar Wish. Looks like maybe he has an Energy Switch available. I'm not 100% sure.
Yep, I see the Energy Switch and another judge. Also, side note, we saw that Henry wasn't able to get a supporter on the first turn to help him out.
Right.
He didn't really get to do much, and his opponent had to use Judge on him, which doesn't feel too great. You gave Henry 4 cards, which could potentially help him out into drawing out of this mess that he was in.
Yeah, you were just talking about how Charlie's deck seems to have more than just a couple of judges in it. So it seems like he's just going to be forced to do something along those lines pretty often early in the game. And now we see a counter to that Thunder Mountain before the Thunder Mountain can really have any sort of effect. That's not what you want to see if you're Charlie, or if you're on Charlie's side here with this Pikachu and Zekrom deck.
Yeah, so having this Viridian Forest is helpful because it helps him get different energies out of his deck. Unfortunately, he would wish that that was a giant Hearth instead. He doesn't want to give his opponent access to lightning energies when he's seen that Charlie is struggling very hard to get any energies going whatsoever, either through his hand or the discard pile.
Yeah, a bit of a double-edged sword there for Henry, and at the same time, even though Charlie did lose his Thunder Mountain, you are correct. He will be able to start finding himself some lightning energies, which he seems to be quite short on. And now we see a giant Hearth in Henry's hand, just a tiny bit too late. But perfection is the name of the game here for Henry, as he is now promoting that Mewtwo and Mew with 2 fire energies on it already and a psychic.
Yeah, this is a change in strategy that we saw from when Drew Kennett was playing in this matchup. He immediately decided to use the GX attack of Latios to shut off any potential GX attacks from his opponent. And in this matchup, we see that Henry's decided to go pretty aggressive and make sure that no tag team attacks or damage are going to be used onto the Mewtwo and Mew and start taking some prize cards.
Yeah, I mean, that's just such a powerful attack, right, from that Latios. You're making sure that your opponent's going to have to attack you with something along the lines of like a Zapdos, or maybe a weaker GX Pokemon that he's going to have to commit these energies to. And it just puts Charlie in a position where he's slightly uncomfortable because he's not attacking with what he would prefer to attack with, which is usually Pikachu and Zekrom GX, because that's how you start accelerating your energies.
That's right. Well, we do see that Volkner that comes down, and he does have finally some lightning energy. He can also throw away that lightning energy and grab himself another by use of that Viridian Forest.
You're absolutely correct. Charlie's turn does continue here. Seems like Henry's just not been given as many resources as Charlie has this match, or this game. Charlie continues to look through his deck, finds himself potentially a Dedenne.
It looks like he also found that Zeraora. It's going to be helpful in getting some retreating going on here if he's not able to find cards like that escape board that usually helps Jirachi in that 1-2 punch.
Yeah, Zeraora is a key factor in this Lightning deck. It's kind of like one of the key resources for you to have this consistent stream of attacks. You don't lose energies when you're trying to retreat. You're maintaining your board presence, I guess is probably what I'm trying to say. Now, double custom catcher.
This is a plan. So he does find himself a energy and an energy switch. That means that he can just use that energy to retreat and then switch that onto his Pikachu and Zekrom and then get a full blitz off if he wants to. Start to accelerate some energies onto his board and maybe find himself a helpful Pokemon to start doing some nice damage into that Latios attack.
Yeah, we saw how Tag Purge was on the Pokemon that has the Mewtwo and Mew tag team that has the energy on it, and not on this one. So once this one gets promoted because of those custom catchers, now damage is definitely on the field, and that allows Charlie to use the ideal attack with no remorse, as Full Blitz not only finds himself some energies, but it also starts putting some heavy damage on Henry's side of the field, as there's now 150 damage on this Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX.
Yep.
Now Henry here, if he plays something along the lines of like Super Scoop Up or something like that, he may surprise Charlie. But if he doesn't, then he could be in a really, really tight spot.
Yeah, most of the time we see Mewtwo's with damage on them being shuffled back into the deck by way of Greninja.
Exactly.
But I don't know if he has an answer for just being stuck in the active with 150 damage on him. Wow, look, it's Macargo.
Well, then.
That's cool.
That's not a Pokemon that we're used to seeing very much out of this Mewtwo and Mew.
We're not used to seeing electromagnetic radar in Mewtwo and Mew decks either.
Exactly.
That's very cool. It's an awesome way to search out your Dedenne and also get some of these GX Pokemon into your discard pile.
So the electromagnetic radar just finding the Dedenne there. I wonder how many targets that electromagnetic radar really has.
I think it's just that. But that's all he needs.
Well, right. I mean, we're seeing just how powerful the effect is, right?
Yeah.
We're now drawing 6 cards here for Dead Change. And the name of the game, though, is still having 150 damage on your Mewtwo and Mew tag team that's active with no energy on it, so no way to really get it out of there. Like you said, there usually is a way for you to remove this damage, and it implies, I believe it's Greninja that has the attack.
Right.
That not only deals damage but also shuffles your damaged Mewtwo and Mew back into your deck. But when you don't have energy on your Pokemon, you can't do that.
Yep, that would be the Greninja DX with Haze Slash, and I don't believe he plays it in his list.
Yeah, I don't see it, so I don't believe so either. So he's got to have something else, right? Something up his sleeve. We'll have to wait and see. Or maybe he's just prepared to give it up. Maybe he's okay with maybe having reset stamp or something along those lines.
We'll have to see where he chooses to place these energies. If he commits to the active, maybe he can save it from a knockout by way of using Latios's Tag Purge one more time. It seems like he is just committed to leaving that damage on there. He's going to bring up this former Mewtwo and Mew that he had up previously with that switch card.
Well, that was one way of getting it out of harm's way, just by playing switch, but...
Oh, cool.
Okay.
He used Macargo GX's attack. He went and copied Lava Flow and was able to do 50 plus 50 for every basic energy that you discard in that way. So he threw away 4, it's 250 damage, and he takes the knockout.
So he is now down to 2 prizes. That's a big knockout, but look at everything it cost him. It did not come cheaply, as now Henry is down to just 2 fire energies on his benched Mewtwo GX. And yes, it has no damage on it, but remember, he's already used the switch to get 1 Mewtwo GX out of harm's way. He's got to be running out of resources to be able to keep attacking, right? Like, you've already used your big Macargo GX Lava Flow. What else do you have up your sleeve of your Henry to take the final 2 prizes?
Yeah, and this is where Charlie's strategy tries to come into place. He has all of that hand disruption, so he uses Judge, hoping eventually that he lands you on a hand that just can't go anywhere. And we're going to see, I believe that's a Hoopa promoted, attacking. It's going to do extra damage for every Pokemon with abilities on your opponent's side of the board. So looks like
it's doing 110?
110, yep.
Yep, 110. There we go.
A lot of abilities.
5
out
different
there.
Pokemon with abilities, plus 10. That's 110. I triple checked my math, Kyle.
Well done.
All right, so now Charlie did deal 110 damage to this Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX, leaving it heavily damaged, but still a couple of hits away from being knocked out. Now Henry, like we mentioned, does have 2 energy on Mewtwo and Mew, but the problem is that it's benched. And he still needs to take himself a couple of prizes. No Guzma in this game anymore, so you're going to have to find a different strategy here.
He's actually got a pretty great hand off of that Judge. He found himself, I believe that's double Custom Catcher. I don't know if he has any
found himself
energies.
a Welder and a couple of fires, and that was huge already.
Yeah, double Custom Catcher plus a Dedenne in his hand as well, so maybe he could close out this game here if he finds the right attack. Looks like he's going to go after that Zeraora GX.
There's that Custom Catcher being played. It does promote the Zeraora. Now there's a switch.
So this Pokemon has free retreat, so he's just buying himself some options. This Dedenne is going to get played. I think he needs to just find an energy to use Lava Flow for game here. He found it.
Yep, there's that energy. Lava Flow is now going to be able to take out this Zeraora GX. That's going to be the final 2 prizes taken for Henry Brand. And that's going to be a very quick game 1 going to Henry, as you're absolutely right. That double Custom Catcher as well as that Welder with 2 fire energies, all of those things came into play in order for him to be able to start to lock this game out for Charlie. Really, Charlie put a lot of disruption against Henry, but Henry got everything he needed, and that happened a couple of times in this game. And that's exactly what happened there. And unfortunately for Charlie, he's now down 1-0 in this match.
Yeah, Charlie has a very interesting strategy in using those Judge cards to disrupt his opponent. Unfortunately, you get 4 cards and then you draw for the turn. 5 cards is a pretty good amount of cards. It's not like using an N in the late game that we've seen throughout previous tournaments and previous years. using a reset stamp is much more impactful, and Charlie only plays one of those from what I've seen from his list. So if he doesn't find that at the most opportune time when his opponent has taken all these prize cards, it's very likely that Henry will find the right cards, able to connect them all together with that welder, double custom catcher, and making use of that Magcargo that we have not seen in this deck before. I'm sure that others have tested with it, but honestly, we haven't seen it on our stage, and it's been very impressive with 2 huge knockouts.
Yeah, it seemed like Charlie, instead of going for like a reset stamp type of setup, he went for Judge as his disruption card of choice, and that just, we saw how that can backfire, right? 4 cards is sometimes plenty. 4 cards is sometimes plenty, and in this particular case, we saw how when you have things like Welder and, you know, in this case as well, multiple fire energies, then you're just drawing so many cards and you're giving your opponent so many resources that they can sometimes pull off these big turns that they need.
Well, we are about to jump into our second game here. We got a little peek over at Charlie's prize cards. Double custom catcher is prized. 1 Latios and a Magcargo. We saw how big that was in the matchup.
Yeah, that Magcargo was very key for, I mean, of course, it was 5 of the prizes. Very key.
That's usually pretty good.
in Henry's strategy there.
Well, Charlie is going to start us off here with that electromagnetic radar. That's one of his best cards in the opener. Able to find himself typically some of his biggest attackers and support Pokemon. If he needed to find any extra cards, he could always find Dedenne. Looks like he's going to be pretty happy with a Pikachu and Zekrom and a Zeraora, and this falling straight into that Judge.
Well, there's that turn 1 Judge again. Like we mentioned, that is Charlie's supporter of choice when it came to disruption. You know, for better or for worse, that card has been the supporter that he's been playing.
Yep, it's so much more impactful on the opening turn. If your opponent only plays 1 Pokemon, instead of essentially being able to see 7 and that 8th card with the top deck, they only see 4 with that 1 active and then the 5th of the top deck. It's being able to only operate with so few cards in the opening turns when you need to have a lot of action. That's when you start to see that this isn't going to work out.
Wow, Dedenne off of that Judge, by the way. So now he's got 6 more cards available to him.
Yeah, he has also not used his Jirachi as well.
Exactly. So here's the thing, too, is like you can see where the wheels were spinning when Charlie was building this deck. He has not only the aggression and the consistency of Jirachi, but he pairs that with the disruption of Judge. If you can pull that off and you can then put your opponent into a slower or just potentially dead hand, then you can steal a lot of games that way. And of course, Charlie will not be suffering from that as often as Henry will because of Jirachi and because he plays so many Dedennes. Now Henry here plays a Welder right away at the start of his turn and finds double fire and a Psychic, so it's 3 energy right away on this side of the field here for Henry. And he has a Dedenne.
Wow, that's absolutely huge. He found such amazing cards for himself here. Also gets to put that Solgaleo GX into his discard pile, so he has options to accelerate energies from his discard pile if he so chooses. We'll see if that potentially comes into play. Using that mysterious treasure, could potentially find himself a second Mewtwo and Mew. Seems like that is going to be the option for him here. He has a second Dedenne in hand, can't use that just yet, but on this following turn, he could really start to roll through his deck and get himself in an amazing spot.
Yeah, as long as he can get himself some energies in his discard pile, then he's just going to have the perfect turn, right?
Yeah, this is exactly where you want to be. Acrobike, it looks like it hasn't been too helpful for him. Just going to have to throw away one of those Mewtwo and Mews. Yeah,
kind of an irrelevant card to throw away, but just didn't find him what he wanted. I'm sure that he would have loved to have.
Not sure if that card in his hand is a Cherish Ball. If he does want, he could find himself a Latios and just start to lock in that tag purge early.
Could also maybe find himself another Dedenne if he has another, which I'm sure he does.
Yeah, he has one in hand, but he's already used Dedenne change for the turn, so he has to hold on.
Yeah, I got you. And there goes Jirachi as, once again, Henry just, what a powerful first turn, by the way.
Yeah. I'm assuming that he's using the Solgaleo's attack there. It really doesn't matter as long as this Pokemon gets knocked out and he doesn't flip his GX marker.
Sure. But yeah, it looks like, I mean, Turbo Strike is just a fine way to knock out that Jirachi. Now, Charlie here, down a prize already and down a game. Finds himself at Thunder Mountain with that Stadium Nav.
Yeah,
Will
this
he
is
be able
the
to
ideal stadium for him to find, even without energy acceleration from a Tapu Koko Prism. He does have the energies that he needs to perform a fantastic attack for himself here.
Seems like both of these players are really just coming out of the gates completely, well, let's just say, I'm just going to use the word fast. But yeah, these players are just coming out of the gates.
Coming out of the gate completely fast. Yeah, honestly, I think Henry's MVP card is Charlie's Judge. That thing has been great for him.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Henry's going to call that his most valuable card, despite not being in his deck. All right. Charlie wants to keep the momentum going. He is actually, despite Henry taking the first prize, he is actually starting to set up pretty well. A skateboard onto Dene. Now there's Dede change for the turn.
And he lost that custom catcher. We know he has 2 in his prize cards, so he will not have a way to move this Pokemon from the active spot until he draws what looked like it were going to be his 5th and 6th prize cards if he draws from that ascending order.
Charlie does full blitz though. Get some energy into play. So now Charlie's starting to set up his field and start to put damage on these Pokemon. Remember that Mewtwo and Mew has all the energy on it. If that Mewtwo and Mew gets knocked out, there goes all the energy that Henry Brand's been able to produce. Cherish Ball play, the first one for Henry's second turn here.
Yep.
An explosive first turn. Will he be able to follow that up with even more explosion?
Henry has an interesting choice ahead of him. He wants to grab Latios so that he can start using Tag Purge, but at the same time, the more Pokemon that he benches with abilities, the more likely it is for a Hoopa to come up and start to disrupt that Tag Purge attack. So he kind of has to be careful with how committed he is to this bench.
He can also choose to start discarding these Tag Purge style Pokemon, right?
Potentially. It looks like he's opting for the Naganadel.
Yeah, Naganadel.
So he has the Latios in hand already and has the Dene as well. So the Naganadel can go to the discard pile. He would have options for sniping for a 170. That could remove the Hoopa or remove a Dedenne. If he wants to lock in the Tag Purge, then, of course, knocking out that Hoopa pretty much seals that he's not going to have to worry about any of those Pokemon for a while.
Attaches an energy to the active Mewtwo and Mew.
Loses
Dede
one
change.
custom catcher.
Discards his entire hand to draw 6 new ones.
Found another custom catcher.
Don't you just love it when they're all 15 cards apart from each other?
Don't you remember when this used to just be one effect named Guzma and you didn't have to do all this wacky stuff to bring a Pokemon to the active?
The good old days. All right, Acrobike discarding an energy. That is always good when you have Turbo Strike available to you. Now, this is where he wishes that Macargo was not prized, right? Like,
yeah.
At this point, I'm sure that's the first thing he looked for when he was Cherish Balling, realized it wasn't there, and then had to find a plan B pretty quickly. But it's just, I mean, that's what the Macargo's there in this deck for.
So we're going to see Bill's analysis. Maybe he's looking for the other piece of that custom catcher. Sees it on the 7th card. I'm not sure if he really wants to, though.
Right,
this is not the ideal place for it. I mean, of course, having that in hand seems good, but...
Yeah, I think he was going to pick it no matter what.
Yeah.
The question becomes, is he going to play it? Like, if you play it, what do you target? Do you target the... You target the Raichus?
I don't know. I might just be a spectator for a minute and see how this works out.
Yeah, I mean, because your opponent's just going to be able to full blitz knockout and just bring more energy into play.
Yeah, Henry has just attached all these energies to his active and doesn't really have a backup plan.
That's exactly right, Kyle. And that's kind of what's left me scratching my head a bit.
Yeah, so he's going to go ahead and take that snipe on the Dedenne using the
Naganadel. Yeah. So he knocks out the Dedenne, so he's choosing to go with prizes rather than damage on the field.
This is scary because this is kind of where Charlie would like to be. Charlie's going to get to take a nice knockout on a tag team Pokemon, remove all of the energies from play. If he can combine that with a Judge on this turn or maybe a Reset Stamp, his opponent just has a bunch of random GX Pokemon and no energies.
There's the Judge that you were just talking about. And yeah, even though the prizes are telling one story, the board's telling another. The prizes tell you that Henry's just one knockout away from winning the match. And then you start looking at you start wondering how he's going to be able to pull that off. We're going to be able to see a full blitz, see more energy come into play for Charlie, and now all of the energy is going to be gone from Henry, right?
Yeah.
So Henry's going to have a 4-card hand. He's already used a couple of Dedennes, and he's got no energy in play. And
Charlie's just going to be a lightning ride plus Electropower away from taking any knockout on the field.
That too. It could be a short game here.
Charlie's hand is pretty great. I don't think he needs to play anything. I think he just wants to hold on to these, give himself a few prize cards from this knockout here, and just one more energy onto the Raichu buddies would be pretty great for him here.
Charlie, I mean, yeah. I think we're both kind of spectators in this particular situation, as it seems like Charlie may have just turned things around. There's that full blitz. Knockout on that Mewtwo and Mew. 3 prizes taken here for Charlie. And now I believe all the lightning energies are just gone out of the deck. That's actually one thing that's a little dangerous, right? He was only able to full blitz for 1 energy, and there's no more energy left in his deck. So what you see is what you get for the remainder of the game.
Fortunately for him, does have 2 energies in his hand, a lot of energy switch cards, so finding a different attacker isn't too hard for him.
Oh, absolutely not.
We'll see if this Cherish Ball has another Dedenne maybe for him.
He might still have one available.
I think it has to be Dedenne into Welders, into a lot of great stuff.
Looks like he's eyeing... I don't think he's eyeing Dedenne.
Yeah, he's looking at Reshiram and Charizard. There is a Dedenne in there. Maybe his hand is just good enough. We'll have to see what he chooses.
It's got to have Welder and Double Fire, and even then?
Yeah, that'd be ideal. So you're going to take that Reshiram and Charizard.
Okay, so that is the Pokemon he chose with that Cherish Ball.
I think I see a Switch and a Giant Hearth as well, another Cherish Ball, so this could be for the Dedenne.
Right, so that's one reason not to go for it is...
Because you can just do it again.
Just want to extend...
Just make your opponent sweat.
There it is. That's the Dedenne being found here with that Cherish Ball.
And Charlie goes, oh, man.
I mean, it worked, right?
Yeah.
It even got the commentators with full vision to be able to get tricked there.
Well played.
Yeah, no kidding, Henry. All right, so Dedenne in hand, Psychic Energy, the energy attachment for the turn here for Henry.
Yeah, gets to counter that Stadium, which is very helpful, removing that Thunder Mountain.
Sure, Giant Hearth is going to be the Stadium now that's going to replace it. And there's Dedenne change. Will he find this, ideally a Welder here?
He's moving pretty quick. He's going to grab those energies with the Giant Hearth.
Yep, Giant Hearth discards Mysterious Treasure to find himself 2 fire energies from his deck. Gets those fires. He does have them in there. All right, does Henry have the Welder? I haven't been able to take a look at his hand quite yet. You have to believe that he's got, yeah. He was moving so quickly that you almost had to believe he already had it. And sure enough, there was Welder. All right, promotes that Mewtwo and Mew. Has 3 energy on it now. Does he have a knockout or anything close to it?
I think he's got Tag Purge for days.
Tag Purge is the attack of choice, so there's 120 damage dealt onto Charlie's Reshiram and, I'm sorry, Pikachu and Zekrom. There we go. Now, Charlie, though, does he have maybe a double custom catcher or something along those lines?
I'm going to guess no, because they should still be in the prize cards. If we could get a peek at those prize cards, that'd be very helpful for over on Charlie's side, just to see which ones he decided to select.
Remember,
He has both of those in the prize cards, and I believe we already saw one hit the discard pile, so there is no switching effect available to him. The only option he has for other attacks is either by way of that Hoopa, or to start moving some of his energies to a Zeraora. There's wildness with Dedenne, but I don't think we're going to see that. But these tag team Pokemon aren't going to be helping him too much here.
Yeah, he had to discard that first one early, right? And then from that point on, we knew that he had a couple left in his prizes, but is that really one of the things that you check for in your prizes on the first turn? I mean, in certain cases it is, obviously, but
Yeah, in a matchup like this, I definitely would. I would think that that's one of the most important things, right along with my Tapu Koko Prism, which you always look for.
right.
Just because you know that there's going to be a turn where you're going to need to get a nice attack into something that isn't a Tag Purge Mewtwo attack.
You have to believe that even if he hadn't at that point, he definitely has now started to figure out that there are no custom catchers left in his deck, or there's only one left in his deck, I should say. Judge now played for Charlie. Both players shuffling their hands and drawing 4.
Theoretically, these judges should just be getting more powerful as the game goes. Seeing that there are 3 Dedenne in play, it means that drawing into the right card should just get harder and harder. Every Pokemon resource that he had through Cherish Balls or Electromagnetic Radars are not going to start finding him 6 cards every time. They're instead just going to be pretty dead draws.
Looks like it's time to start paralyzing this Mewtwo and Mew. There we come.
Yep, so we've seen that other decks have that Cobalion as a way to avoid this effect being too impactful. We've seen switches in Henry's deck. We'll see if he's able to find one. I know he had to discard one off of that last Dedenne. He may have another one available in his deck. I think he plays that golden one, and I think I just saw a little reflection of it there in his deck, so maybe he is able to find one of those.
Giant Hearth finding 2 more energy here for Henry, but yeah, I don't believe there's a Cobalion, right, in this deck.
Yeah, you usually have to play it along with the Rainbow Energy so that you can get that effect from the metal,
right.
And he seems to be playing this basic energy route with the Mag Cargo.
Sure. So now what's going to happen here, Kyle?
Well, look, he does have Cobalion. Does he? I don't understand.
Okay. That's 2 of us. So you're right, he does have Cobalion in his deck, but does he have what he needs to get out of this paralysis and start that Tag Purge all over again?
And we'll just have to see.
Such a complicated deck, Kyle.
Bills is a great way for him to find this switch card if it's available to him. Charlie with one last shuffle, trying to make sure that this thing does not show up.
There's
wow.
There it is. It is exactly what he was looking for. He found it with that Bills. He found a way to switch out of there, and now Charlie Lockyer does go down 2-0 against Henry Brand, as Henry Brand advances to a 3-0 record at this second day of the World Championships. That means that he is one step closer to making that top 8 and potentially being able to hoist that championship up high at the end of Sunday.
Absolutely. What an amazing game played by both of those players. Very